Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel ABAP Genius. In our previous videos, we have seen about AMDP procedure and table function and the differences between them, and we have implemented it practically in our system. In today's video, we will be discussing about the client handling in our table function. We have already pointed it out that in AMDP procedures, we have to explicitly pass the client value. Then only it will return the values pertaining to that particular client. Else it will get the data whatever is available from all the various clients. In table function, we have some field in the return list which is MANDT. But if you observe this get details method, we don't have anything which is for client handling. So here it will get all the data from different clients. And one more thing before discussing about the client handling, instead of writing return here, if you want to declare one internal table, you can do that here also. LT underscore data equal to, I'm declaring this internal table and you have to return this one here, LT underscore data. This way also it will work. If you have to do some other filtration based on the data you are fetching in this internal table, you can do that. So for client handling, first I will define this table function as a client dependent one. We have one annotation which is for client handling type. I'm just entering it. We have three values here. Inherited means where we are getting the client handling from some other CDS view or some other thing like that. We have some other options which is client dependent and independent. I will define it as client dependent. It is dependent to this particular client only. And I will define one more parameter here which is p underscore client, and the type is ABAP.client. For this we have to definitely declare the annotation. This is the error we will be getting. Let me remove this one. You will get that at the environment system field must be specified because it is a system specified one. We have already discussed about this annotation in our previous video, which is CDS view with parameters. If you don't know how to use this annotation and what is the purpose we have to use this annotation in the CDS view with parameters, please do watch my previous videos. I have explained it clearly. Since here it is a client one, we will be keeping it as client. Now our error is resolved. We have defined one parameter here and we have added the annotation as client dependent for this table function. So this table function will act as a client dependent, but here in our get details method we don't have anything pertaining to current client only. So for that we will pass this parameter name here in the where condition, and p underscore, this is I believe MANDT, and this is the parameter one, p underscore client. This is how you have to restrict the data. After adding that annotation and defining the parameter, here you will be restricting the data whatever you have entered as a parameter. For example, if I execute it now, It is asking for P bookers, but the client value it will be taking automatically since we have defined as a system field. The current client will be handled automatically, and the same thing we are passing over it here to restrict the data pertaining to the current client only. This is the way we can do it for client handling. If it is client independent, how you have to do this is the client dependent scenario. So we are defining a parameter and we are using that parameter in our method. I will make this as client independent. Now let us see the changes, how it will look. Okay, I'm getting one error here. The annotation at the rate of environment system field client is not allowed here. This annotation will help you to get the current client. Since we have mentioned this annotation as client independent, this client as independent, it is not allowing you to take the client from the system variable. So I'm just comment it down. We can have the parameter, but this annotation is not supported. Now this parameter already we are passing it over here in this client in the mandate field, which is the return parameter. And if you try to execute this one, it will ask you for the p underscore client value also, because it is a client independent one, and it will act as a parameter instead of taking it from the system field. So you have to explicitly enter your client, and this is the mandatory parameter also now. Now let us see by commenting this MANDT. It is not returning any error now. Since you have defined this annotation client handling with the client independent. Since it is client independent, this return field whatever is present, MANDT, it is not returning any error. But in case of client dependent scenario, it was giving error. Even if you don't use the annotation also, if you try to remove that while creating a table function, it gave you error that this is the mandatory one. So this is how the table function will behave while using client dependent and client independent annotation. Let me just make this as client dependent and I will just comment this one. We are getting an error. Z table function is marked as client specific. Type field works at position 1 is char not client. So the first position itself it is expecting as client. So this is how it will behave. If you define your table function as client dependent, then it will expect the return parameter should have the MANDT field, which is the client. If it is client independent, no need to give the MANDT field in your return list. We will be explicitly entering it while you are executing your table function. We can see that like in debugging mode also, like here in your internal table we will be getting more data, but when coming to your table function it will be only few records pertaining to your client. Those things also we can see by debugging. We will see how to debug AMDP procedures and table functions in our upcoming videos. This is all about today's video. We will continue with the rest of the topics in the upcoming videos. If you found this content useful to you, please do like, share and subscribe to this channel.